AI is hot and everyone wants in, then it's a very viable topic. You bring up AI and people will listen because everyone wants the AI companies to go there or set up a data center or something there. And it'll be the same for Bitcoin, but I think it'll be when we hit 200, 300,000. That's when the countries are going to perk up and go, hey, well, actually, we're interested in this now, right? It's like all of the memes, they're all true. Like the meme of like the little comic about the two booths, and like Bitcoin at 70K, no one is there, but at Bitcoin at 120, there's a long line up there, right? It's exactly the same. It's like a fundamental truth that people want something when it's hot, but not when it's an understated, underhyped thesis. And that's just the way the world works, it seems. But this is kind of why I think there is a high chance that the US really does follow through with its plans to really fill their SPR, to pass legislation that allows them to shift onto a Bitcoin standard, because there really is nowhere else to go, right? Like in Canada, the concern of the government and some people is like, we're losing people to the US. But if you're in the US, like Jeff, where else do you go? There's eventually nowhere else to flee to. And I think it is part of the freedom is still part of the American psyche. And I think deep down they realize they need to fix the problem. They need to fix the debt problem. They need to fix the economic ruin, and there's just no way around it other than Bitcoin. So I think maybe things will circle around a little bit, but eventually they have to reach that conclusion about adopting Bitcoin in a serious manner, using Bitcoin as money, and rebasing to sats or something to eliminate the debt, or at least significantly reduce the debt, because there's really nowhere to flee to, right? There's nowhere else to run to.
Samson Mow believes the battle over money is ultimately a battle over freedom. At first glance, that may sound extreme, but when you examine how modern financial systems operate, his concerns begin to resonate with many people around the world. Samson Mow argues that governments and institutions naturally seek greater control, not necessarily out of malice, but because centralized systems are designed to manage behavior, enforce rules, and influence outcomes. The more control they have over information and money, the easier it becomes to shape economic activity and individual choices. He points to examples where privacy and financial autonomy have come under pressure. One of the most cited cases occurred during the Canadian trucker protests, when authorities gained access to financial accounts linked to demonstrators and froze funds. For Samson Mow, this wasn't simply a political event. It was a glimpse into what can happen when money exists entirely within systems controlled by third parties. Critics argue that government oversight is necessary for security, law enforcement, and economic stability. Supporters of Bitcoin counter that these same powers can be abused, especially during times of social tension or crisis. The failed ambitions surrounding Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency are often referenced as another example of how deeply entrenched and resistant large systems can be to meaningful reform. This is where Bitcoin enters the conversation. Samson Mow sees it not as a speculative asset, but as a tool for financial sovereignty, money that cannot be frozen, censored, or manipulated by any single authority. Whether one agrees with his conclusions or not, the debate raises an important question. In an increasingly digital world, who should ultimately control your money? Let's get back to the clip with more insights from Samson Mow.
It's funny you mentioned Elon. Like, he actually gave up on it, right? He had free reign to implement the Department of Government Efficiency, did a few things, and he kind of gave up because there was just no way to fix it. The mess is too big, too tangled, and just unfixable. So it kind of makes you think, like, if he had that much power and latitude to try, and he couldn't, and he gave up, and he's just going to do his own thing, it's pretty indicative that it is part of the system. The system itself is broken. The brokenness is core to the system, and that's why you cannot fix it. I think governments will start to limit and prohibit freedom of movement. Like they will just stop you from leaving, and that has been thrown out there in discourse. We're worried about brain drain in Canada. What's the solution? We just tax the young people an exorbitant amount so that they don't even think about leaving because they don't have the money to leave, right? And then, what's the next extension of that? We're not that far from being pods in the matrix, because that is the end state. That is the ultimate state. You know what everyone's thinking, you know where they are. But the Overton window has really shifted, that it is acceptable to theorize about restraining people from freedom, period. Not just free markets, just freedom. And C22 makes that even worse. So you can't even talk about these things potentially.
So Samson, starting with you, I'm kind of curious, do you have any concerns about let's say securitized Bitcoin financial products as a centralizing or capture mechanism for Bitcoin? And no is a completely fine answer. I'm just curious your outlook on it.
I'm not too worried about it. I think some Bitcoiners are, but I think it's a natural evolution. Similar to our nation state work, we get some criticism from Bitcoiners saying, why are you helping governments try to get Bitcoin, right? But anything that is valuable, a government will want. If it's not Bitcoin, it would be bottle caps, right? If it wasn't bottle caps, it'd be something else, because governments don't really create value, they extract value. And I think there's going to be these structures no matter what we do. There's going to be ETFs no matter what we do. But I think, people will have to learn, some people will learn the hard way that if you use it in this centralized system, it's not really yours. And you can keep it as a bearer instrument. And all of us, all the builders, we are building things that will make it easier and easier for them to keep it bearer. But like Jeff is saying, if things get bad, people will learn. Sadly, people have very short memories. I think if you ask a Canadian on the street, remember the trucker protests and freezing bank accounts? I bet you they've forgotten. But I mean, these are the masses, right? This is the mid curve. These are the average people, and average people will do average things. They'll have average memory spans. They'll have average attention spans. I mean, people were panicking like crazy about oil and Hormuz, and now it's like, go ask someone, like, what's happening now? They won't know because it's not being fed to them in the media anymore or through the algo. So, people will find Bitcoin when they deserve to find Bitcoin at the price that Bitcoin is at that time. But it's difficult to force change and to force understanding. You have to really have been burned or be very cognizant of the world to really understand things ahead of time.
One of the biggest fears among Bitcoiners is that Wall Street could eventually turn Bitcoin into just another financial product. With the rise of ETFs, custodians, and securitized Bitcoin instruments, some worry that the very asset designed to eliminate middlemen could slowly become trapped inside the same centralized structures it was created to escape. But Samson Mow takes a more contrarian view. He's not overly concerned because he sees this as a natural stage in Bitcoin's evolution. His argument is simple. Anything valuable eventually attracts governments, institutions, and financial markets. If Bitcoin wasn't valuable, they wouldn't be racing to build products around it in the first place. Yet Mow also delivers a warning. While centralized Bitcoin products may offer convenience, they come with trade-offs. History repeatedly shows that when assets are held within systems controlled by others, ownership can become conditional. Bitcoin may be different, but human nature isn't. People often forget lessons from the past, including events like Canada's trucker protests and frozen bank accounts. For Mow, the future isn't about stopping financial products from emerging. It's about ensuring individuals always have the option of true self-custody. If conditions deteriorate, the market itself may remind people why Bitcoin was created in the first place. Listen carefully.
What's your read on the crypto shitcoin space?
Well, Well, it was always going to die. It's just a question of when. Every time they have a new boost from something, it'll die off eventually. Like ordinals, I said, it's not going to last, and then it lasted more than 3 months, and they're celebrating. Hey, we're still here. They would retweet me and quote me and say, hey, this guy said we're going to be dead in 3 months, and okay, it took like 7 or 8. Okay, so I'm off by a few months, whatever. But the point is, it is a death spiral. It was always meant to be a death spiral because these things are extraction tools to extract value, especially Bitcoin. So that they serve their purpose and then they're done. And I think what's most funny and great is AI is accelerating that death. So, for Bitcoiners, we try to build in the most secure and conservative way possible. If you look at Liquid, right, the way to get smart contracts on Liquid was through simplicity and formal verification, not some janky JavaScript thing that's bolted on. But it took a long time to get that right and to get that done. But now it's here. And I think you're going to see more people building on these reliable substrates. And the AIs are just going to obliterate DeFi because they're good at finding bugs. And all of those smart contracts from Ethereum and Solana and whatever, they're all going to be just eviscerated by AI and drained of funds. And that they're going to either retreat to Bitcoin or they're just going to be annihilated.
Whether you agree with Samson Mow or not, one thing is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The debate is no longer just about Bitcoin's price. It's about control, privacy, and financial freedom in a world that is becoming more digital by the day. As institutions, governments, and investors take Bitcoin more seriously, the possibility of a $200,000 to $300,000 Bitcoin no longer sounds as far-fetched as it once did. If adoption continues accelerating, growth could become even more rapid than most people expect. The question is, will people understand Bitcoin before they need it? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.